This week we are continuing with our study of floor plans and elevations and sections. This time we're moving into actual buildings. So the first part of this class we're going to be looking at interior spaces only. So I'm going to show you guys step by step how I would go about drawing a floor plan of a small space and also an interior elevation of the space. So the space I'm looking at here is very simple. It's actually the basement of a CPS school. I was helping out a friend with planning a project. So anyways, it's not a very grandiose space, but that's one of the reasons that I'm starting with it here. Now, the first thing you want to do when you want to draw a floor plan of the space that you're studying is you want to walk around the space itself and take note of all the architectural elements where the doors are. If there's windows, this is a basement, so there's no windows. If there's windows, if there's columns, so what are the architectural elements? So this is the overview. Now, this type of bird's eye you're not going to get when you're in a space, but for visualization purposes, I'm using it today to show you how I translate this space to a plan. So there are some column elements and some interesting things happening here. And then you can also look at the proportions as well. So I can tell this side here we've got a relatively narrow to long space. Some spaces might be more square-like, so you can take note of things like that. You're analyzing as you're walking around. You can even take some notes, and you can sketch as you move around the space, and it might be kind of rough. That's okay. Again, this is not drafting. You are studying through sketching in your sketchbook. So it's okay to make a lot of construction lines using your lighter line weight, and then you can overlay with that heavier line weight and with the poche of the walls and get a really nice drawing that shows some of the process of you studying the space. Like one of the ways you could analyze the building is pace out a wall. So how many steps does it take? How many feet is one of your steps? You can also look at things like flooring or ceiling tiles. Usually those are standard size, so you can figure out what size those are and count how many there are. So there's a few tricks like that you can use to figure out. Even doors standard width is 3 feet. Sometimes interior might be smaller. So you could use things like that to help you decide, okay, there's about 3 door widths on this wall, so that must be 9 feet. So you're kind of a detective figuring out the elements and how they fit together as you move through the room. Let's see what else. The wall thickness, you can guess the wall thickness based on doorways. So open a door and look into the wall where the jamb is, and that can give you a good sense of what the wall thickness is. Windows can also provide the same hint. Okay, let's get started. So if I were walking around this room, I'm going to draw mine fairly small so you can see everything here. Okay, I would start with one of the proportions that makes sense to me. So I'm starting with this far wall here, and I'm using construction lines. See how I'm kind of overlapping to get a nice corner there. And I'm just getting the basic shape of the room with my light line weight. And I've got some ins and outs here. And see how I extend the line past, and then I could come back and decide, okay, where does this wall actually intersect? So I'm thinking it's actually smaller than that. In relationship, I decide the length of this wall in relationship to this wall that I've already drawn. So you're always comparing and contrasting to get the right proportion. Okay, and then we've got a diagonal wall here. And I'm only doing a partial plan. You can kind of leave it open on one side, but you may have a full plan that you're figuring out. Notice that I'm going around the edge of the room first to get the overall shape. So I'm going to come back and finish out this wall. Now notice it comes further in, it comes past this corner. I'm going to pull that over, and it's aligned roughly with the middle of this wall. So again, light line weights. So it turns back in here and makes sort of a column gesture. And then I've got a few columns here. Oddly enough, they're not very aligned, but roughly they are aligned. So I can tell that it aligns with this second corner here. So I'm going to draw a construction line down. It's all about alignment. Looks like it aligns with this corner as well. So I'm making like a crosshair to draw this column in. And you always, always, always start with the architectural details. If there's furniture, ignore the furniture at first. You want walls, columns, windows, doors, things like that. And then it looks like this is also aligned here. So you start to get a relationship between all of the elements. Okay? Now you'll see that there's a ledge that's on these columns. So you can draw that in lightly too. Making sure you stay with your alignment. There. There. Okay, now after I get the overall shape, I come back with, okay, where are the doors? And I'll just mark those in. Again, getting the proportion correct, the door size compared to the wall size. And then there's a door here, and then double doors here as well. Okay, and then one more door here. So just blocking it in. And then I'll come back with my heavier line weight, and I'll fill out the actual shape of the wall all the way around. And I'm not going to do all of that now, but just to give you an idea. And most likely I'll post-J with ink to really give emphasis to what I'm cutting through. So remember, floor plan, you're cutting about 3 or 4 feet off the ground. So something like this. This is where I'm cutting all the way around the space. Now, one other thing that I want you to draw are interior elevations. So you want to think about alignment for that. So maybe I'll block this in a little bit better so you can see. There's the wall. The wall thickness there, wall thickness here. Okay, so I'm going to draw looking in this direction, like I'm standing here and I'm standing here. So this is going to be my interior elevation. So I'll use my construction lines, and just like you did with the still life study, you'll bring those up. And then you'll create a ground line. And again, think about you're cutting a vertical plane. It's going to cut through the wall, the ceiling, and down, okay, and the floor. And then you're looking towards the doors here. So if you are cutting through like a sill of sorts, like I am over here, what you would see is, let's start a little bit lower. You would see the ins and outs. So I'm cutting down this wall, and then there is a sill, just like a windowsill, and then it comes down. So see, you get a sense of what is happening on the side wall. Now over here, it's just a straight wall. And then you've got the ceiling. And pay attention to the proportion, the width to the height. Make sure you get that right. Okay. And then with a lighter line weight, this is the heavier cut profile line. The lighter line weight, you would block in the doorways and make sure those align as well. So you're always aligning. And then, yeah, there's not a whole lot else happening. So you've got, also the sill comes around, right, with lighter line weight. Now, if you have furniture and things like that, you could add that in with a really light line weight, maybe a little heavier than your construction lines. But it's always the last thing that you draw. You want to draw the things that are not movable, that are part of the architecture. So that's how you draw a floor plan and interior elevation.